Hi, I'm Jo. I work for a company called Literary Platform in London, and what we do is we run a magazine site which reviews literature and technology projects. We also run a consultancy working with developers and publishers, and we run a couple of our own projects which are mainly based around sort of the creator and writers, and which respond to a couple of the challenges that we've identified. Right, here we go. Hey, there we go. And the technologies at hand shape content and form, and I think most crucially the relationship between the author and the reader. And as I see it, publishers really serve two functions. The first is you have a responsibility to nurture creative talent, and the second is that you are the key, or can be a key way in which to connect audience and reader and writer. So digital technologies are shaping the network, and the network is shaping storytelling. And we're living in a really, really rich period of creative experimentation. And the business challenges and opportunities are going to be discussed a lot throughout today. What I thought I'd use my time very briefly for is to give you a snapshot of some of the really exciting examples in which storytelling is evolving and creativity is being expressed. And they're the sort of things that we come across when reviewing projects all the time. And there are a few key themes, I think, that are beginning to emerge around sort of how storytelling is evolving. And the ones that interest me most are how the audience is becoming more participatory. So it's a more of a lean forward experience than a lean back experience than it's ever been. And the other is how the sort of creative impetus of the digital technologies and the network is bleeding back into the physical world and shaping that. So in turn, it is shaping the print world, and it is shaping face-to-face interactions. And for me, that's sort of extremely exciting. So a really quick whistle-stop tour of projects. This is and readers drive the action forward by performing certain actions that are required of them. I think what's really interesting about Inanimate Alice is that students and young people are encouraged to basically hack the story themselves. So using a sort of piece of software like Mozilla's webpage, webmaker, to start with, but what's happened is it's been adopted by educators in 70 countries because teachers see it as a way of connecting storytelling and digital literacy with young people in a way that they sort of, or through media that they understand and appreciate. One of the big themes we're seeing emerging in storytelling now as well is a sort of maybe a shift away from the auteur to group collaboration. So this is created on a sort of monthly basis by a team of about 8 or 9 people, writers, artists, digital producers, and most importantly, the audience itself. Deals with a generation of children who are called the silent, so they have no capacity for speech or to understand language. Though it's a very different experience and certainly a much more adult experience than Alice, what it does have certain themes in common with it. So it's episodic, short accounts are delivered to your device as you read, so the story is paced according to your reading speed. It's also written by a team, again, of 5 people, and it invites the audience to contribute to the story, this time in the form of field reports. And as I mentioned before, there's sort of this shift as well of digital technology feeding back into the physical world. So what this does is, using a GPS system on devices, there are stories that are located in the physical world which you can only unlock on your device when you're standing in that place. And you can contribute in turn from that place back into the story. This is Dreams of Your Life, which is an interactive story on web platform. It's written by quite a famous high-profile UK writer called A.L. Kennedy, and it was developed, in fact, to accompany a documentary film. And the document, again, this is quite dark. There's quite a lot of dark stuff out there at the moment, but the documentary is about an apparently popular young woman who dies and she isn't found for 3 years in her flat. And the story here unfolds, it takes the form of a conversation between the dead protagonist and you as the reader. And as the reader, you respond to a series of short narratives or questions. And so these responses shape the direction the story takes. I think what's really interesting, it's a very intense experience. It unfolds over one sort of half-hour concentrated period, and it's quite contemplative. But what I think is brilliant about this is new departure of four writers, really. To the reader to decide in which order they read them, how long they read them for, how long before they decide to start the story again. What's really interesting is that publishers found that readers were unwilling to shuffle the pages, that somehow this was breaking the rules of the book or the story. So when the publishers decided to create an iPad edition of this, what they did was they sort of left the reader with no choice but to break the rules. So on the iPad version, the pages shuffle automatically, and only when you put your finger on the screen does it stop. The minute you release your finger, it starts to shuffle again. And what I love about this project is basically the digital technologies coax the reader to approach narrative in different ways and to liberate themselves from the rules and the conventions that we've become used to. Technology to bring life to a discarded print book and to create a sort of magical, enchanting experience for the reader. So since processes and interprets the data and in turn feeds a story back to the headphones that the reader is wearing. And the story is one that she's written. It's the hidden history of this book, the readers that it's met and the relationship it's had with them. And I think what this project shows really is that combining books and technology doesn't necessarily have to mean a device with a screen. It can be about how to use, I mean, it's an extreme version, right? This is not a scalable project. So that's it for the projects. It's just a really little flavour of some of the things that I think are really, really interesting. And what we see more and more is that, and I think this is the big shift in a way for publishers, which is that there has been one way of being for so long, and actually ebooks, sort of vanilla ebooks that are distributed by Amazon and Kobo, that's really an extension for me, and I see it as an extension of the sort of print book world, which is that there is a sort of distribution mechanic, whereas this is the marking the shift in storytelling. I thought I'd just end really briefly with a project that we run. We encounter a lot of writers in our work, and we kept hearing the same two challenges. The first of which was they were feeling excluded from the discussions and the debates about the future of publishing. And the second was that although there was this real desire and hunger to sort of extend their creative practice, a lot of them felt slightly paralysed about how to start this. And designed for writers. And one of the really sort of exciting and fun things we're doing is we've decided to sort of try and pair writers with technologists, just as a way of seeing what the sort of creative impulse or what can happen when the commercial pressure is off, and they just have time to play. And so we've got two and I think this sort of experimentation is interesting, and who knows what it might yield. But hopefully we'll push story along in further ways. And as publishers, I hope that really excites and interests you. I find it thrilling.